if you ever catch yourself saying, "Hey, just between you and me," whatever follows that isn't going to honor God.
Yeah.
And so it probably shouldn't be said.
Hey, welcome to the ReThink podcast.
Man, that voice. Perfect.
That was good. Not
So
too
this
boomy.
week, Jeff's gone.
He's at the eclipse.
He's at the
And
eclipse.
so
Eclipse
Andrew
party.
and Matt, they will be taking us before the teaching time this week at both of our campuses, both of our locations.
What do you want to do in this conversation?
I want to slay some dragons.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
I'm just curious what
Heard
you're
it
going to
here
use.
first. No, so the way that this weekend particularly is working
Hold on,
is
we're starting a new series.
starting a new series
It's called Slaying Dragons.
called Slaying
That's why I
Dragons,
said that.
talking about
Yeah.
slaying the dragons of sin that are in our life. So we're going to tackle a bunch of different topics: gossip, pride, lust,
Greed.
greed,
Anger.
anger. But this weekend, Andrew's preaching at the Clay campus. I'm going to be at the Effingham campus, and then we're going to switch. So for the 8 people who watch from the Clay campus on Monday, don't do that. Okay? Wait.
Yep.
I'll be there in 6 days. But
Matt is coming.
yeah, you should be sick that day. No. So how do you want to structure this? Do you
Let's just
wanna-
talk about yours.
both topics.
Yeah.
Or just
No,
one?
just yours. Let's talk about yours.
Talk about gossip.
Talk about gossip.
We'll do pride next week. One thing I will
Just-
point
just
out.
put you on the spot, Matt.
That's fine.
So the series that is consistent all the way through, the idea of slaying dragons. So there's a famous St. George painting from the 1400s. And St.
Where's it at again?
Huh?
Where's it at? The painting?
Well, I don't know where the painting
It's
is.
in Rome.
I thought so.
It might be, but it's from the 1400s, and it's a picture of a Roman. He was a Roman soldier that was actually martyred during that 1300, somewhere in there. I think, I don't know, somewhere in there. And the picture is him on a horse with a spear, and he's driving the spear through the dragon. That's like the famous image if you Google search St. George. Anyway, the picture there is the idea of slaying the dragon or killing sin while it's still in its infancy so that it can't grow into something bigger and overtake you. So that's the picture of the series, is killing sin before it takes hold and overcomes you.
My bad. It's in Washington, D.C.
Oh, look, we own it.
Yeah, the National Gallery of Art.
By we, he means the United States.
God bless America.
Oh, there's a bunch of them. I don't know which one's the actual
Which
one.
one's the real one?
There's a ton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like one of the most copied paintings ever. Mosaics, all kinds of things.
There it is. I think that's the actual one, but I don't know.
Let me see it. No, that's not
Oh,
it.
it's not?
No.
It says it's National Art.
Well, that might be there, but that's not the original. That's not the OG.
Guess you're going to have to look it up.
The OG. So
All
this topic is gossip, which, can I just say from us to you, we all hate topical sermons.
True that.
I'd much rather just preach a text. And I really struggled with doing that because I thought about just going to James 3 and talking about the power of words and ignoring gossip. But Jeff's the boss, and he said this was the topic. So that's what I did. I started just talking and reading about gossip. Anyway, I started
Did
reading.
you start talking about him? Because that would
No,
be gossip.
no, I did
Okay.
not.
Dude,
I did not.
Andrew, this is saying it's the legit one.
Let me see it again.
This is saying it's the legit one, 1505.
Nah, there's one. I have a picture.
You
of
have
it.
the original.
I have the original actually in my office right now.
the OG.
I got it from Rome. It was fine.
Nobody said anything.
Have you seen? What is that? Oceans of.
This is
12
the
or
one that's in
13
the
or
National
something?
Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. It was painted in 1504.
Well, I have one from 1400. So,
Okay.
all right, gossip.
Yeah, so I started a couple weeks ago reading through Romans for a series we're doing in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed something there that I've never noticed before. Paul begins by writing to the church in Rome, and he's writing to some people who know about Jesus, but they don't follow him, right? They're not bringing glory to him. And he starts to list all these things. He's like, I've given them over to their sinful desires. And he just says, bam, 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 all these things. And I noticed that gossip is in the list. Mm-hmm. It's in the same list as murder and hating God. And it was like, man, like God takes this incredibly serious. This idea of talking about people. I don't know if you guys have heard of the 24-hour rule. I think I heard about it from you maybe the first time.
What are we talking about?
So there's this leadership rule out there that a lot of organizations use that if you're an employee of the organization, you have 24 hours to go and talk to the person if you go and talk about that person to someone else. Mm-hmm. You ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, no one's ever come and talked to me, but I've gone and talked to lots of people.
Yeah. Perfect. I think the whole picture here, though, is like God takes what we say incredibly seriously. And I also think, too, that if you're not careful, gossip can be the thing that puts you in the way of the mission. So one of the things we do at First Steps that we host several times a year is we have people share their story. Like, where'd you come from? What's your faith journey? And I always give one rule in that gathering. Hey, you can't talk negatively about other churches. Mm-hmm. Because if we're not careful, we naturally just slip into complaining about where we've come from or our past. And when we do that, what we're doing is we are breathing negativity into the bride of Christ, right? We're putting ourselves in the mission and are in the way of the mission. I also thought about too, like, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you did, invite people to come to be a part of Easter last weekend. I invited somebody, and their response to me was, I can't go because I can't stand church people. They talk about people, they've hurt me, and that's what gossip does. Like it literally puts somebody in a place where they feel uncomfortable. They don't feel like they want to be a part of that because it is negative in some way.
So when you were talking, it popped into my head Luke 6:45. A good man brings good things out of good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart.
Yeah.
For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of.
Yep.
And I think gossip ultimately is the elevating of self over God or others. Like you're positioning and posturing yourself by gossiping about someone in order to elevate your position rather than seeing your Philippians, taking the humility of Christ and putting yourself under God and seeing that he is the one to be elevated above all things.
Yeah. That's powerful because you're exactly right. I mean, you're elevating yourself over God, essentially. I love Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And so, it's like, to talk about gossip and go, hey, like you can't talk about anybody if they're not present, right? That's really what this is about. Mm-hmm. Well, you can talk about people when they're not present, as long as you use Ephesians 4:29 as your filter.
Right.
Like if you're talking about someone to build them up, if you're talking about somebody to build them up, well, go ahead. But if you're not, you shouldn't be. I think also too, what's unique about this particular topic is that this is the one that 100% of us deal with.
Yeah. Well, I actually think that all these topics, we all deal with at some level or degree.
But this is the one that has almost become culturally acceptable.
Yeah, and embraced, I would say.
Yeah.
Like Facebook or any social media platform, it's just
okay.
widely accepted.
Yeah.
And then embraced, and then people join in with it.
Or during a prayer time.
Yeah.
let me pray for so-and-so. Did I tell you
yeah.
what's going on with them? They really need prayer because of this.
Yeah, and it has
Yeah.
that drives
I've
me nuts.
experienced that a lot.
Yeah.
So what I did in this message is I talked about what gossip is, why we do it, and how do we stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to ask you that question, what is gossip? What would you say?
I would give my same definition of elevating ourselves over others in order to gain position or status.
What'd you say?
I would be more real and clear with normal people. And I would
Those
say
were real words.
it's when
with
you
real
are
meanings. Thank
talking
you.
about someone else's business that you have no business talking about.
You know what? We ought to have Chelsea Wakefield on the podcast sometime. Sometimes
Is she a
read-
gossip?
No.
Oh, I thought you were calling her out right here.
No.
Because she's not present.
She will
Which
read
would be gossip.
She will read scripture and then she'll like give it in her own words,
Yeah.
in order for the common folk to understand. But
She's just reading the message.
no, it's better than the message. But I'm
It's
just
the
saying.
message, according to Chelsea.
Yeah. So Caleb just interpreted what I said.
Yeah.
That's why, not gossip.
I'm actually Andrew's interpreter. Andrew comes and tells
No,
people
the Holy
stuff,
Spirit is.
and then after he leaves, I'm like, this is what he actually meant.
So the dictionary defines
So the-
gossip as like anything you say about someone when they're not present. Anything that's not helpful.
That's exactly what I said. Just in
Okay.
different words.
I said it better. We're going to talk about pride next week.
Which will be the best sermon of this series.
It'll be huge. Be great.
Not going to be any
Talking-
sermons better than this one. Sorry.
In the history of sermons, there won't be any better.
Of all the
than
sermons
next
you've ever
week.
heard.
Oh my.
Oh boy. Okay.
Basically, I am shocked though at how much we do this.
Wait. We?
All of us do it.
Well, and it doesn't matter your age too. Like it's as from when you start speaking until you're in the grave. Like you're always like, even my 3-year-old, she'll tell me stuff about other 3-year-olds she hangs out with that it's none of her business, but yet she wants to share it. It's just it's unfortunate. It just comes natural.
So, okay. So what is the difference though in sharing factual information versus gossip? Like if something really happens, right? And you're talking about a person in a
Though
situation.
it's the intent of your heart. What is the intent of your heart
Oh.
because you're sharing it?
Okay.
Is it to
Like, is
build-
it because you're concerned for them and you want to help them, or is it like,
Is it to
let me
build
tell
them
you
up?
what happened to this guy when I was in the corner doing what I was supposed to do, Dad?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's the intent of the heart.
So I think as we look at all these subjects, I think that's why God
Yeah.
takes it so serious,
Yeah.
is because it's a reflection of what's going on in our heart. And I think that's the hardest thing to get in check, is having a heart for God and not self.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think of James 3, Taming the Tongue.
Yeah.
And we did a series in James was that last fall?
Yep.
I don't know when that was.
I don't know.
Maybe it was a year ago.
Anyway.
But I couldn't help but think of that as you're talking about God, because it's the same. He doesn't necessarily talk about gossip, but it's like where our tongue can take us when we are not in check with it. And that's what exactly gossip is, not keeping that in check and not keeping, because it's really, like you just said, the intent of the heart coming out through the tongue, and how powerful it is.
So what I did is in this message, I bounced around Proverbs, because the way Proverbs is structured is, Solomon hits these topics and they're all like one proverb could be gossip and the next verse is about life and death. And it's like, so that's what he does. So I bounced around and I started in Proverbs 18:8. It says, the words of gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. And the first thing that popped into my mind was my kids' Easter candy. Because think about it. Like, he's saying it's the thing that you digest. It goes down to the innermost being. It's the thing that comes after you. The thing that like has no actual value in your life. And I thought about food. Have you ever read a nutritional facts on your kids' Easter candy? There's none. And that's what gossip is.
Well, there's sugar.
Yeah, that's not good for you.
It helps you get energy.
Yeah.
There's carbohydrates, fuels the muscles for quick response.
For quick response.
If you have a Reese's cup, there's some protein. I mean, I like to eat Reese's cup for protein.
Oh my.
You got to eat a lot of them.
Like a dozen of them. But that's the whole picture, is like it's not actually good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It actually, in the long term, kills you. And Solomon goes on to say, like, it's the thing that kills your friendships, it kills relationships, it kills all the things that you have with people. Because again, you're elevating yourself over a person, or elevating yourself over God.
When you're breaking people's trust and confidence, and like it just down spirals from there.
Right.
Especially as if you're a type of person that is just constantly doing it all the time.
So how do you kill it?
Well, I think first you have to understand like how much God hates it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, I mean, in our culture, it's almost acceptable. And I think about John 10:10, you know, like the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Like that's what gossip does.
Mm-hmm.
And he's come to give us life, right? And it's almost like that's what the enemy does, right? He tries to divide. And that's what gossip does. It divides and it separates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think practically there are some ways that you can slay it, kill it. And I think part of it is the verbiage you use. And what I mean is if you ever catch yourself saying, hey, just between you and me, whatever follows that isn't going to honor God.
Yeah.
And so it probably shouldn't be said.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of those things. I guess like for me, I was just aware, because I think that's what preaching does for us, is it makes us aware to all the things we're talking about. And I'm like, man, like it's amazing how it just naturally comes out. And you try to justify it by it being related to church people or your life group, or my life group's going to think I'm talking about them all the time, and I'm not. But
No,
it's just, it's crazy how it just flows off the tongue. So you have to stop it. I think the only way to stop it is what we talk about all the time. It's what are your inputs?
Mm-hmm.
God's word's got to be the thing that you keep putting in your heart.
I think, yeah. So the input for sure, God's word, right? But then it's the practice of speaking truth and practice of speaking encouragement. And it's the old saying, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Like, okay, that's simple. But I would take it a step further, because that's what Jesus does with all these things that are just good ideas. Instead of just not saying anything at all, find the positive thing that you can celebrate the person or the situation. Your wife does that really well.
It's funny, I was thinking the exact same thing
Like,
as you're saying that.
better than I've seen most people do. It doesn't, I mean, it's crazy that your wife can find something positive in the worst people and worst situations. It's wild. Or she just speaks about who God is. Like, if there's nothing, literally nothing good to say, she'll just talk about how good God is.
Yeah.
And she shuts down conversations. I've heard her do this. Shut down conversations that someone else is trying to get her drug into, and she shuts it down in a incredibly, like, disarming way.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't even realize it happened until it's done.
Yeah, she does it very well.
I mean, she does that with me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Proverbs 26:20, without wood, a fire goes out.
Yep.
Without gossip, a quarrel dies down.
Yep.
You're exactly right. You got to flip it on its back. You got to flip gossip. And you're right. You do that by when someone comes up to you and they try to gossip about somebody, you immediately start complimenting the person that they are trying to put down.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't know the person, you start talking about how good God is.
Yep.
That ends it so fast and makes it awkward for the person
Right.
who is trying to gossip, which is great. But it's also not just the words you say, it's also the words you type. Because
Just don't post.
I'm saying, if you go back and read your messages,
Uh-huh.
I think we would
Wait,
all be...
are you calling me out right now?
I'm calling you out right now. No.
I got like
think
7 posts in 17 years.
well, not even the post.
I think he's talking
but
about
it's
your text messages.
your text messages and your messenger stuff. Like
Like, you want me to show them what you wrote me?
Yeah. So what you say with your mouth or with your thumbs
Yeah.
is a big deal.
Oh, I use my pointer fingers
do?
to type.
The reason I think it is such a big deal, though, is because ultimately this goes down to if you can see a person like Jesus sees a person.
Yep.
Like, anybody comes after my kids and starts talking about my kids, I'm gonna be fired up. That's the way God is when you start talking about your friend or your boss or whoever. God sees his child. And when you throw him under the bus to make yourself feel more important, it upsets God.
That's a cool analogy.
Well, and I also think, too, when someone comes to you and they start gossiping to you, you're hearing subconsciously that they think you're valuable, and that's a lie.
Yeah.
If they'll gossip to you, they'll gossip about you.
Oh, you came up with that one, didn't
I
you?
didn't.
No?
No, I've heard that said a couple times.
That was smooth.
I mean, yeah, I did come up with that. Not really.
that's true, though.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%.
But I think you're exactly right. This all comes down to a reflection of your heart and what you view as valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Is God the most valuable thing in your life? Well, that changes the way you speak about people and to people.
I would say too, if you've been on the giving end of gossip, so you're the one gossiping, one of the things that you can practically do is go and ask for forgiveness. Like, be like, hey, I should not have done this. I'm sorry. Like, I think that goes a long ways in rebuilding trust of just being, because one, you're like putting it all out there, right? Of just going, yeah, I messed this up. I'm sorry about that. I should not have talked about you. Because then if it comes back to them and they're like, oh, well, so-and-so, they're gossiping, right? They're
Right. Yep.
And they're like, yeah, I know. They came to me and told me and we're all good. Like all of a sudden now you've disarmed it.
You've removed the log from the fire.
Yep.
Right. That's
Take the fuel
another,
out of
I
it.
think, really practical way is just go talk to them. And that's a 24-hour rule and just ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
So, because the worst thing that can happen is like the fuel to the fire is you get more people talking about it, and then the story gets all kinds of messed up, and all kinds of chaos ensues from gossip. So you
It's
can't
the
have
thing-
a fire with one log. That's what Adam Watson told me that. So
Anything else?
I still got James 4 in my head. So
What's it? Go
James
ahead.
4:7. Submit yourself then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. So that's all of us. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up.
well, thanks for joining us on the ReThink podcast.
After this, no more clips talk.
Maybe a little. It's going to happen again. When
Yeah, we'll have to ask-
40 years.
we'll have to
2044.
We'll have to ask Jeff how the clips was from the air. See ya.